Reaperman here with Fatal Craft on Watara Supervision. So, what's a vision, you may ask? Okay, back in the early 90s, the humble Game Boy here was king, and everybody was trying to dethrone it. Game Boy had great battery life and a solid game library, but it just seemed to cost an awful lot for a system that displayed four shades of the same color. The other major console makers, so Atari, Sega, and NEC, all had high-quality color handhelds in the market, and they were gunning for Game Boy from the premium side of the house. But there were several other, far less known manufacturers that were aiming to undercut the Game Boy's price. And that's where this guy comes in, the Watara Supervision. Takes a lot of inspiration from Nintendo, so it's got a D-pad, BA, start and select buttons, stereo sound, four-shade black and white screen. Of course, it's green, 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 and green. But that screen was larger and higher resolution than it was on Game Boy. The system could be played tabletop arcade style since it folded at the midsection with rear kickstands for support. Also, there was an accessory to hook it to the TV screen. So on paper, it could be made to look better than the Game Boy in every way, and it cost less. But, and there's always a but, that screen was terrible when any sort of movement was going on, and yes, it was even worse than Game Boys. Because I couldn't really see what was going on, I have maybe 20 minutes of use on this system, and I've owned it for at least a decade, probably a decade and a half. In absolutely perfect light, it works. But being a handheld, light shifts a lot. Last year, when Couchers came along and gave us the analog interactive NT Mini, the FPGA system, he gave us the best hardware with which to experience the wonders of supervision. And it wasn't until then that I could really put in some time on this system, and that's what I'm recording this footage off of today. But in addition to the screen issues, Supervision's game library was very primitive as well. However, the library does have some size and diversity, especially when you consider that comparatively few Supervisions were sold, and the attach rates on new games were probably also terrible. I mean, even I don't own many games for this thing. One of the better games, in my opinion, is Fatal Craft, which you can see here. Fatal Craft takes clear inspiration from Gradius or Nemesis on the Game Boy. It's a side-scrolling shmup where power-ups fill a bar at the bottom and can be cashed in when the power meter reaches the desired level. Anyway, the game is quite difficult compared to Nemesis. Fatal Craft's animation is choppier, enemy bullets get hard to track. There are no mid-stage checkpoints either, which sounds super bad, but without the initial speed-up upgrade, I think a player would just be dead anyway. One oddity I noticed was that Uncollected Power-Ups also stop player fire, and that provides kind of a stationary shield for the baddies, and it's really annoying. So how hard is it? Well, I've never seen the second level. In fact, after a couple hours of playing, I only saw the first level boss twice. One might be tempted to think that I just suck at this game, which I definitely do, but I did play it for hours, which makes me in all likelihood the best Fatal Craft player of this millennium. By the way, here's my high score. If you beat it, please tell me what level 2 looks like, because I'll never see it. I was actually so embarrassed at my Fatal Craft performance that I went back to Nemesis to confirm that I didn't suck at games in general, and to get a comparison. And surprise, Nemesis was a lot easier. And yes, this is what Fatal Craft was up against back in the day. It looks and plays a whole lot better. Truthfully, I'd rather be playing Nemesis, because even though I only needed a 10-second clip, well, this clip actually goes on for about 15 minutes until I died several stages in. And what a game. But back to Fatal Craft and its power-up bar. So it's a lot like Nemesis and what the power-ups are and the order they go in. Grabbing a power-up moves the meter, and at any time it can be cashed in for that upgrade. Unlike Nemesis, there is only one level of each power-up. And grabbing an upgrade that's already been applied results in the power bar simply emptying, so pro tip, don't do that. For power-ups, the first position is S for speed. This is also the first power-up to cash in because I don't believe the game is possible without. The second position is M for missile, which provides like a downward diagonal shot which is slightly reminiscent of the missile in Nemesis, but it doesn't skim the ground at all. The third position is D for directional. This provides an upward diagonal to pair with the M, so it doesn't do the rearward shot like it does in some other games. It just simply is the opposite of M in this one. The fourth position is L for laser, which transforms the main shot into a beam. Fifth position is O for option, which is an invincible little buddy who follows the player craft around and duplicates whatever shot it is with all of the upgrades. And the sixth and final position is F for force field. It shields the ship from most damage, though slamming into scenery and stuff like that is still fatal. For the first stage, I find it helpful to grab the S, M, and D as quickly as possible, and in that order. Then I tend to save up for a force field, hoping to get through the awful enemy spawner section. So those enemy spawners are invincible, and they can chuck enemies out even after they've scrolled off the screen. This is where I die. After that, I would occasionally see the level 1 boss, and I'll just cut to that here. So this is the absolute last thing I ever see. Let me know what's past him in the comments. So this is Watara Supervision and Fatal Craft. There is definitely fun to be had on this here system, but Fatal Craft is my favorite game so far, which should speak volumes about the quality of the system's library. If anyone's got some great memories of the system, any game recommendations, for example, drop them down below in the comments. And because some people prefer their game footage without an old man yakking over it, I'll shut up and let this clip play out. I guarantee it's more Fatal Craft than you ever wanted to see, or your money back.